Hello, Blake Rudis here, and welcome to day 8 of the 30 days, 30 critique sessions we're doing here on YouTube. And I gotta say, this has been a lot of fun. I'm having a lot of fun, and I can't wait to look at F64 Elite member Michael Bacon's shot. We actually have a portrait this time. Awesome. Can't wait to take a look at that one. But before we do that, we have a twist. And I also have a comment that I want to discuss. But hold on a second. This is my hair before I actually get ready for the day. It's almost like an adjustment layer that has no blend mode. Okay. I couldn't do the rest of it without some texture up there. Sorry, guys. First thing, there was a question on YouTube that said, can you use this same color grade technique used on the bird for a human? And that was on day 7's critique. And the idea that I want you to grab here is what you'll realize when you start editing for the viewer and not editing for yourself. You can edit any image any way you want. What I mean by that is I don't look at anything as being genre specific anymore at all, period. I don't think, okay, this technique is something I would use for this and this technique is something I would use for that. It doesn't work that way anymore. So the way I operate now is I don't think about things genre specifically. I think about where do I want to direct the viewer. So every one of these critique sessions, we always talk about where are we directing the viewer and what do we want them to see? What do we want them to feel? When you think about that, you don't necessarily need to think about techniques and what you're going to use. So that's a great question, Cindy, because I get that one a lot. Our twist comes again from Heike. Heike and I, we go way back. Actually, I think to like 2016. That's probably when we had our first email exchange. She became an F64 Elite member as soon as I opened doors for access. And we go back and forth in email, and we challenge each other all the time. We challenge each other in a lot of different ways, and not just with our photos. And it all comes from a really good place. It comes from a place of wanting to see each other grow and not try to hold each other back. And that's what I love about Heike's challenge. And this one is a challenge. Use a gradient map adjustment layer with at least 5 to 6 color stops to map out an image, color-wise and tone-wise, and combine it with a blend mode of your choice. Wow. Okay, this is going to be a fun challenge. I already like the way that this one is going. So let's get into the critique. Our critique image comes from Michael Bacon. Michael, this is a fantastic shot of somebody in the middle of doing something that they're passionate about. You know, as artists, we have our vision. Right? We have our vision that we put into our images that we want people to see. But musicians, you know, you'd think it's just words and notes, but it's not. Two people can sing the same song, right? But one person does it with this sense of feeling and passion, and it moves you to tears. And with the other person, you might just say, oh, good song. This is the type of expression that I think would move me to tears when I listen to somebody like this creating music. What I think is crazy about this, I look at her fingers and like the position that they're in. It's a very strong position. It's like, you know, it's in the middle of moving from one chord to the next. And you know, the fingers look kind of like dynamic and almost like claw-like, right? Like there's a sense of tension just with the fingers alone. But then you look at the individual's face and you know that they're just feeling the music. And that makes me want to feel it along with them. And I think that that's incredible. I really do. I think that you were able to capture this and make me feel that way. That's incredible. I do have some disconnects with it though. I feel like it's too bright. I feel like I kind of want a little bit more of this deeper, darker, more moodier type of feeling with this individual. Think of it like this, you know, when you go to a concert, do they have fluorescent lights on at that concert venue so that you can see everything that's on stage? No, because if you see the stage during the day, it just looks like there's cords and there's wires everywhere and nothing's really hidden. Everything's just out there in the open. So then with concerts at night, they shut the lights down. They make it darker. They make it more moody so that all those other things that distract you just kind of disappear a little bit. And I think we need that same distraction release in this image here. I think there needs to be a little bit more darkness, some more depth to that darkness. Now, I can't tell. It's possible that those lights are exactly like you have them here. It is possible that those lights are emitting that type of light ray through maybe a fog machine. That's possible. It's also possible that those light rays were created after in post-production. And I say that because they look awfully similar as far as the patterns that I see in the striations of that light. But again, like I said, that could be something that when those fog machines, when the light hit those fog machines, it did that. I can't really do much about that, the background at this point, but I'm going to show you another direction of light that we can bring in on our subject here. But like I said, I love the feeling, love the mood, love the passion that you have going on here. Let's jump into Photoshop and see what we can do to work this one out. Okay. So now for the work. I want to show this person in the beautiful path of light that we have them in here, and tone it down a little bit. Like I said, it feels like we're under fluorescent lights. It feels like a high school gym class. You can see everything, all right? And we don't want this person to feel like they're in a high school auditorium performing at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. We want them to feel like they're on center stage in one of the most dramatic and emotive environments they could be in. As a photographer, I feel like that's kind of what you want for your vision here. What I would suggest, though, is compositionally, next time, try to give a little bit more space to the main subject here. Just a little bit more space for this area here. I know you really wanted to show the lights on her face, but just a little bit more space, and we'd have some more breathing room towards the bottom of the image. But let's see how we could edit this to make it feel a little bit more like that. So I'm going to cheat a little bit, and you know what? I really don't care, because it's my panel, it's my channel. I like that. I'm going to use this button here called Lights Off, because this does a wonderful job of cutting the deep highlights that we had on our face and on the guitar. So I do like that they're bright, but at the same time, it's just so bright that we have this point of blowout. So I'm going to put the reduce lights on, and then I'm just going to reduce this just a little bit more. How can this be mimicked? You could mimic this with a curves adjustment layer with a specific mask for that, or using the panel. There's always that option too. Okay, so that's going to help cut the lights that are on our subject here, and it's going to help set the mood for the rest of the image. Let me draw a path of where I want darkness to be. So I'm going to grab my lasso tool, and I'm just going to come right up here and just kind of draw a path of where I want darkness to be around our subject. Okay, like this, and then I'll come back around like this. That way I made a selection for that. Now I'll put a curves adjustment layer on here. Okay. Now with this curves adjustment layer, I'm going to bring everything down and make it much darker. Okay. And I know I've got this hard edge line, and you're like, Blake, that is absolutely ridiculous. Why would you do that? Well, here's the point. I'm trying to see exactly the structure and the shape of the darkness I'm trying to add to this, and I can refine that in a second. So once I go over to and click on the mask, you see the mask properties here. There's this thing called feather. Watch this. It's going to simulate me Gaussian blurring or blurring this mask. I'm going to blur it until it gets to a point where we don't see it anymore. And now you're like, okay, I get it, Blake. I get it. So all I did here was draw out the path, okay, and then heavily feathered it. And this to me is actually a better option than trying to blur the mask, because you could go back and forth trying to blur that all day long. And then if you don't have it set as a smart object, it's going to mess everything up. So here though, I can change that feather at any time. If I want that to be more dramatic, I can come in this way. Less dramatic and more feathered, I can come in this way. And that's awesome. So now that I've got this on its own layer, I can really experiment with how I want this to shape and sculpt out the light. Now this is set to normal, and I notice that when I pull this up, it's going to change my colors as well. I could change this to luminosity, and therefore it won't affect any of my color at all. It only affects the tonal value. I'm going to change that back to normal and see what I like better. I kind of like it at normal better, but there's always you always have to test your options. Okay, so that looks pretty good right there. I'm actually really liking the direction that this image is going already, and I don't think it needs a whole lot more. But we do have to add Heike's twist here. Before we do that, let's do this. I'm going to add my tone navigation map on here that comes with our self-critique guide, so you can kind of see what's happening here. Lots of viewer eye going everywhere, okay? We are just narrowing down the focus of the viewer and what we want them to see. We're making a connection between 3 points. The lights, because those are important. You've left them in there or you've added them. I'm not quite sure what direction you went with that, but either way, I think that they're important. So we see a little bit too much here. We're just narrowing down the focus, and this is pretty cool. All right, so now what I need to do here is, according to Heike's challenge, I need to add a gradient map here. And this gradient map must have 5 or 6 stops in it. Now I'm going to explain what that is in a minute here. I have a whole course on F64 Elite called Beyond Color, Exploring Gradients, and it talks about a lot of this stuff. But what I want to do here is add a colored gradient here. I don't want this to be black and white, but it's going to set it based off of what my colors are in my palette here. So what I need to do here is I'm going to double click on this, and I'm not really going to set the blend mode right now. I'm going to set the color. So a lot of times I tell you that dark and cool colors will push things into the distance for the viewer, and warm and bright colors will pull things towards the viewer. So we're going to use this gradient map as a way to push and pull tonal value here. So I need to map it out. What I'm going to do is I have this one here. I'm going to double click this, and I'm going to make this like a darkish blue. so that while I'm adding this gradient map here, I also get that color with it. Okay, so there's a dark blue that's going to be for there. Now, again, don't worry too much about exact specifics right now. We're just experimenting and having a little fun here, folks. So with this, I'm going to cool that color a little bit more. So it's going to start as a darker and much cooler color. And as I work my way up, they're going to be less cooler colors and get brighter. So I'll double click this. Now we started with blue here. Let me move down here and make this a little bit more of a, see, I'm getting closer to the warmer colors, okay? And then I'm gonna pull this over in this direction right here like that and press okay. Now this, like I said, it doesn't have to be, don't worry, don't look at this, don't judge me yet. Okay, I'll give you a time and a place to do that. So we will click right here, and then I'm gonna double click this, and again, get a little bit cooler, or warmer I should say, and a little bit brighter, get a little bit warmer and brighter, right about here, okay? Maybe even move that down just a little bit more, okay? And then I'll press okay. And now the next one, where is that hitting? That's actually hitting her face. So I'm not gonna stay with anything cool at this point at all. At this point, I'm gonna start moving into my much warmer colors, okay? So right about there, okay? And then let's make it a little bit more on the red side, kind of have that almost like skin tone type of color to it, okay? There we go. And then this last one, I'm going to go ahead and bring this up and make it more on the yellowish side because it's dealing with the highest highlights, okay, that would be coming maybe from those lights. And press OK, and press OK. And again, like I said, this is not good, okay? It's not meant to look good. Once we do this, we've got the color outlined where we want it to be. We've got the cool and dark colors on the cool and on the darker areas of the image, and we've got the warm and brighter colors on the brighter areas of the image. Now, all I got to do is change the blend mode. And I'm going to go with one of these contrast blend modes. So in one of the other critiques, I used a lightning blend mode, and this one I'm going to use a contrast blend mode. Now with these contrast blend modes, 3 of my favorites are Vivid Light, Linear Light, and Hard Mix. And again, there's a course on F64 Elite called Photoshop Foundation's Blend Modes that teaches you all about this stuff. So again, there's a lot of resources on F64 Elite for you. What I'm going to do is start with something like Vivid Light. Vivid Light is a mathematical equation that fill is what modifies the algorithm of that equation. So I'm just going to start bringing this down. You're going to start to see this look a lot better. And when I bring this fill down, I'm going to bring that down to about 20%, okay? And look at that. Look at that. We just... Wow, Heike, that was an awesome challenge because this just added a lot of life and color to this image that wasn't there to begin with. It actually makes those lights seem like they make a lot more sense to me now. So I know that in the critique, I thought they were kind of fabricated looking, but I feel like now they actually have a nice, strong place. And I think it was because the light itself just felt out of place because it was just a almost neutral type of light. Okay, here we're adding some color and some depth to that light. And I think it works out really well here. And that is awesome. So let's just look at your overall before. Okay, your overall before it's great. I think you got the bones for a great image here because we see the mood and the feeling in the person that is singing this song and playing this song. But what we want to do is not just have it look that way compositionally and from what we photograph, but feel that way when the viewer sees it. And that's what this is all about. So at any point, if any of this is too much, you're saying, well, Blake, okay, pump the brakes. You went too far on this stuff. Okay, just drop the opacity of these things. I always start out heavy and then slowly start to taper things back in, okay? And that, to me, is what creates success in an image. It's when we work from that point of the highest height and then get it down to a point where we really want the viewer to see it. Dang, that is awesome. Our showcase image comes from F64 Elite member Connie McClaran, and I gotta say, I was immediately drawn to that little bit of light that is on the trees in the background there. And then I immediately went over to the bird that's hanging out on the edge of that branch, and then I saw the fog, and then I just saw the whole image as an experience. You know, like as I'm looking at this, I just feel this very calm sense of stillness. And the thing that blows me away about this, if I'm being 100% honest, is that the color grade is a very green color grade. And that green color grade can sometimes create... green is a color of money, okay? It's a color of envy. It's a color of jealousy. It's a color of... There's a lot of actually negative connotations to the color green, especially when they're used in photography like this, when they're not a bright, vibrant green. But what I see here is a sense of calmness, almost as if this is moving more towards the cyan type of green, which blue and cyan tend to be more calming. So the choice of green color that you use to color grade this image is just fantastic. you know, I've said in the past, you know, be very careful when you color grade with green because you could create, you know, eerie zombie movie effects. And that's not what this is. This is a very calming, peaceful image. And the more I look at it, the more I just want to rest in it. And I really enjoy the way you framed up that light in the background on that branch with the leaves back there. It's fantastic. It's a beautiful showcase image. Thank you very much for sharing this with us, Connie. For anyone who's just jumping in, we are doing this 30 Days, 30 Critique Sessions to also give back to the art community. And we're doing that through a charity called Give Kids Art that puts art in the hands of children that may not have the possibility of having art in their lives. And I think that's incredible because if you know my backstory, my story started with art and it's here now. Okay, I'm doing it for a living. So where we are right now with our donations for Give Kids Art is $4,445. And I think that's incredible. We've got some phenomenal donations that are coming in from F64 Elite members and YouTube subscribers and people that are catching on to this series. I think that's incredible. So let's keep that up. We have 3 F64 Elite members to thank. Heike, thank you so much for that challenging challenge. It was an awesome challenge and a great twist. If you've got an idea for a twist for the next video, go ahead and put it in the comments below, and the one that is the most liked is going to be selected. Thank you, Connie, for that awesome showcase image, and Michael for this beautifully emotive image. Thank you very much for all of your support, guys. Appreciate you. Can't wait to see what happens in day 9.